What if someone could tell you the exact amount of money you'd need to put aside each month to leave your job in just 10 years? Not decades down the line, not when you're worn out and past your prime, but just 10 years from now. Most people hear something like that and brush it off. They assume it's only possible if you were born wealthy or got lucky somewhere along the way. But the reality is, there's no secret club or hidden formula reserved for Wall Street insiders. It all comes down to simple math that anyone can understand. The real issue was never whether it's possible. The real question is whether you're willing to confront what the numbers actually require. And here's the surprising part. The number itself isn't what most people think. Some people will assume the number is ridiculously high. Others will think setting aside a few hundred a month is enough. Both assumptions miss the mark. The real figure sits somewhere in the middle, shaped by how money compounds over time, how inflation steadily eats into your gains, and how consistent you're willing to be. Before this video ends, I'll reveal that exact number. But first, drop your guess in the comments and see how close you get. I'll personally respond to anyone who nails it. Now, let's address why this idea feels so extreme in the first place. From a young age, most of us are given the same blueprint. Go to school, get a job, work for 40 years, save a bit on the side, and eventually retire when age forces you to slow down. Only then do you finally get to enjoy your life. That script is so deeply ingrained it feels unquestionable, like it's just how things are supposed to be. But pause for a moment and really think about it. Is that truly the only path? Or is it simply the one that keeps you working as long as possible? Imagine this instead. You sit down tonight with a blank notebook and write out every expense you have each month. Rent, food, transportation, insurance, even those small subscriptions you barely notice. Let's say it totals around $3,000 a month, or $36,000 a year. Now picture building a system that generates that $36,000 annually without requiring your time. You wouldn't be living a luxury lifestyle, but you'd gain something far more valuable: complete control over your time. Every hour of your day would belong to you. That's the real goal. So how do you build something like that? It all comes down to a force that has quietly created wealth for generations: compounding. People throw the word around all the time, but here's a way to actually understand it. Imagine placing a single grain of rice on a chessboard, then doubling it on every square. At first, it seems insignificant. 1 grain becomes 2, then 4. It feels like nothing. But halfway across the board, the piles start growing fast. By the final squares, you're looking at more rice than entire nations could consume. That's compounding. The tricky part is that the early stage feels like nothing is happening, and that's exactly when most people quit. They save and invest for a year or two, check their balance, feel underwhelmed, and stop. Meanwhile, the ones who stay consistent eventually reach a point where their money starts generating more than their paycheck ever did. Now bring that back to a 10-year timeline. With only a decade, you don't have the luxury of slow, minimal contributions stretched over 40 years. You need to be far more aggressive, consistently putting in meaningful amounts, choosing assets that actually grow, and understanding the forces working against you. This is where a lot of financial advice breaks down. You'll often see clean, upward-sloping charts showing steady 8 to 10% annual returns, as if growth happens in a straight line. That's not reality. In the real world, inflation quietly erodes your purchasing power every year. Taxes take their share of your gains. Fees, even small ones, compound against you over time, just like returns do in your favor. Here's what that looks like in practice. You might earn 8% annually on paper, which sounds strong. But subtract around 3% for inflation, 1% for taxes, and 0.5% for fees, and your real return, the money that actually improves your lifestyle, drops closer to 3.5%. Over a decade, that gap between the headline return and what you actually keep can quietly drain tens of thousands from your portfolio. It's a hidden trap for anyone who focuses only on optimistic projections without accounting for inflation, taxes, and fees. But this isn't bad news. It's leverage. Once you see where the money leaks out, you can start controlling for it. You can position your investments to outpace inflation, reduce tax drag, and minimize fees so more of your returns stay intact. Let's ground this in real scenarios. If you take the conservative route, high-yield savings accounts or government bonds returning around 5%, and invest $1,500 per month for 10 years, you might end up with roughly $230,000 before inflation. In real terms, that's closer to $175,000. The income generated from that would barely cover rent in an average city. It's progress, but not financial independence. Now, consider assets that better track inflation, like real estate investment trusts, REITs. With yields in the 4 to 6% range and rents that typically rise over time, that same $1,500 monthly contribution could grow to around $280,000 to $300,000 in a decade. That might generate about $1,200 to $1,500 per month, improving your position, but still short of full freedom. Then you have broad stock market index funds, historically delivering around 10% annually before inflation, closer to 7% in real terms. This approach could grow your portfolio to over $340,000 with the same monthly investment. That might produce roughly $1,400 to $1,600 per month in inflation-adjusted income. Now you're making real progress, but you're still only halfway to that $3,000 monthly target. This is where the 4% rule becomes critical. Research shows that withdrawing about 4% of your portfolio annually gives you a high probability of sustaining that income long term. 0.04 times P equals $36,000. To generate $36,000 per year, you'd need a portfolio of approximately $900,000. $900,000 in 10 years sounds massive, but don't get stuck on the lump sum. What matters is the path to get there, and the monthly investment required is more manageable than it first appears. If you consistently invest around $5,000 to $5,500 per month into a diversified portfolio earning roughly 7% after inflation, you can reach that $900,000 mark in about a decade. Now, let's be realistic. For most people, putting away $5,000 a month feels out of reach. And that's exactly why the idea gets dismissed so quickly. People hear the number, feel overwhelmed, and never even try. But what's often overlooked is that you have levers you can pull to bring that number down significantly. The most powerful lever is your lifestyle. If you can live comfortably on $2,000 per month instead of $3,000, your required portfolio drops from $900,000 to $600,000. That alone reduces your monthly investment target to around $3,700. Still substantial, but far more attainable. Push it further, down to $1,500 in monthly expenses. And now, you're aiming for about $450,000 total. That brings your monthly contribution closer to $2,700. At that point, The goal shifts from unrealistic to challenging but achievable, especially for a dual-income household or someone building additional income streams. Which brings us to the second lever, income growth. If you assume your current salary is fixed for the next 10 years, the math will always feel restrictive. But that's rarely how real life plays out. Over a decade, you can increase your earning power through new skills, better opportunities, negotiations, or side income. As your income grows, investing $3,000 to $4,000 per month becomes a strategic decision rather than a sacrifice. So here's the number, clearly stated. To realistically retire in 10 years with a solid, non-luxury lifestyle, you're looking at investing roughly $3,000 to $4,000 per month into a diversified portfolio earning about 7% after inflation. That's the reality. Not a few hundred, not even $1,000. It's higher than most expect, but it buys something far more valuable than comfort: control over your time. And if that number feels out of reach today, don't disengage. Even investing $1,000 to $1,500 per month puts you far ahead of the traditional path. Maybe your timeline becomes 15 years instead of 10. But that still means reaching financial independence in your 40s or 50s instead of your 60s. More importantly, the discipline and awareness you build along the way will fundamentally change how you interact with money, and that alone compounds into something powerful. There's another part of this journey that almost no one talks about. The first half is tough, really tough. You're doing all the heavy lifting. Your contributions make up the bulk of your growth, and your portfolio feels small despite your effort. But around year 7, something shifts. Your returns start catching up to your contributions. Then, by year 10, your investments begin generating more than you're putting in. That's the tipping point, the moment the snowball finally gains real momentum. But here's the truth. Math alone won't get you through those 10 years. You need systems. If you rely on motivation, you'll fall off the path the first time the market drops or life throws an unexpected expense your way. What actually works is automation. Set up automatic transfers from your paycheck into your investment accounts. Reinvest dividends without hesitation. Remove every bit of friction between earning and investing. Automation doesn't panic, it doesn't hesitate, it just keeps executing month after month while you focus on living your life. Now, picture the outcome: waking up on a random Tuesday with no alarm, no commute, no boss. Not because you have nothing to do, but because your investments generate more income than your old job ever did. Imagine choosing how you spend your time based on what excites you, not what pays the bills. That's not a fantasy, it's a destination with a clearly defined price. And now you know what it costs. But freedom requires something in return. It demands discipline today. It means choosing long-term rewards over short-term comfort. It means questioning every unnecessary expense. Is this bringing me closer to financial independence or pushing it further away? Once you start thinking that way, everything changes. Decisions become clearer. Progress becomes measurable. So here's the blueprint. One last time. Invest $3,000 to $4,000 per month into diversified assets earning around 7% after inflation. Reduce your expenses, and the target shrinks. Increase your income, and the path becomes easier. Do both, and the odds shift heavily in your favor. The timeline can flex, but the process cannot. Consistency is non-negotiable. Most people won't start. Many who do will quit when it gets uncomfortable. Only a small percentage will stay the course long enough to experience real financial freedom. The question is, which group will you fall into? 10 years from now, you won't be wondering how much you should have invested. You'll either regret not starting or be grateful that you did. And if this gave you something to think about, make sure you're following along so you don't miss what comes next.